Tonight on BBC London News.
Move away from the door!
The Met's total war on crime as 900 officers target money laundering and online fraud in the capital. 5 months, the woman who racially abused fellow passengers on the tube.
I just hope you can learn from this and hopefully change your ways, and whether it change your views, I don't know.
Keeping the Jubilee safe ahead of the 4-day royal celebration in the capital.
We see how the police are preparing for their security and ceremonial roles alongside the Queen.
The stars are presented: Danny LaRue, Des O'Connor and Prince singer Mireille Mathieu.
And performing there for more than 40 years, we're with Des O'Connor as he returns to the London Palladium. Good evening, welcome to the programme. A total war on crime, that's what the Commissioner Bernard Hogan-Howe promised when he took charge of the Metropolitan Police 9 months ago. Today saw the latest in a series of large-scale operations with nearly 1,000 officers targeting economic crime like online fraud and money laundering across the capital. But some criminologists claim such high-profile crackdowns are better for public relations than fighting crime. Our Home Affairs correspondent Guy Smith reports.
Move away from the door! No, keep going.
Keep going. Well, that's what the Met are doing. Not just this morning against suspected fraudsters, but on a regular basis. Big operations targeting specific crimes. It's part of this man's strategy, Bernard Hogan-Howe, who's been Commissioner since last September. He's branded it a total war on crime. Today, more than 900 officers across the capital were ordered to tackle financial offences. By this afternoon, the Met had made more than 100 arrests, seized over £1.5 million in cash, plus 2 cars, imitation firearms, and even this motor cruiser.
Total war on crime is our Commissioner's strapline, and that's what we're doing today. We are saying that Met means business about crimes against business, and we are really serious in the long term about tackling this type of criminality.
And in the long term, that's what really matters for businesses and indeed the public when shopping, for example, online.
Retailers are extremely severely impacted by retail crime. We estimate the cost last year on the sector was something of the order of £1.4 billion. And that can have a real impact on the individual businesses, the people that work in them, and the customers that use those services.
But does this kind of policing work? In 9 months there have been 13 operations, with one using 4,000 officers. The main criminals targeted have been uninsured drivers, thought to be involved in other more serious offences. Ben Bowling, a criminologist for more than 20 years, wonders if it could be style over substance.
Clearly there's a public relations element to this. The police service has taken a battering in recent months with allegations of corruption, racism scandals, a bit too close to the media. And so I think that part of this is to make the police look good again.
And of course part of it is also to respond to serious crime. The current Commissioner wants to copy his previous success in Merseyside. Total crime down there by 1/3 in 4 years. Guy Smith, BBC London News.
Coming up later on the programme, the small businesses who are banking on a big supermarket chain to save their high street. A woman who was filmed racially abusing fellow passengers on the tube has been sent to prison for 5 months. Jacqueline Woodhouse from Romford had been drinking champagne at a retirement party in January when she boarded a Central Line train. Sonia Jessup reports.
It was a foul-mouthed, racist rant that's been watched by thousands on YouTube. Jacqueline Woodhouse said she was so drunk when she boarded this Central Line train she couldn't remember the journey. Those who shared the carriage certainly remember. One traveller so shocked, he said he felt he could no longer interact with white people on the tube. This businessman who filmed the abuse thinks her jail sentence doesn't go far enough.
I think Jacqueline Woodhouse got off pretty lightly, actually. I just hope she can learn from this and hopefully change her ways, and whether it change her views, I don't know.
Sentencing Jacqueline Woodhouse to 21 weeks in jail, District Judge Michael Snow said that anyone viewing the video would feel a deep sense of shame, that our citizens should be subject to such behaviour who may, as a consequence, believe that it secretly represents the views of white people. And it wasn't the first time Jacqueline Woodhouse had been caught racially abusing passengers. She was fined 4 years ago for a similar offence on the DLR. Today she was banned from using the service and from the London Underground. British Transport Police said Woodhouse displayed a complete lack of control over her behaviour. Racist behaviour, whether it is alcohol-fuelled or not, is unacceptable on public transport.
He's even filming.
Jacqueline Woodhouse has since lost her job and is claiming benefits, but the judge rejected suggestions she felt ashamed of her behaviour, saying he found that hard to believe. Sonia Jessup, BBC London News.
The Chief Executive of Great Ormond Street Hospital has announced she's to stand down. Dr Jane Collins was at the centre of the controversy surrounding the hospital's failures in the baby Peter case and is leaving to become the head of a cancer charity. Last year she survived calls for her resignation from a government minister after this programme revealed she withheld information critical of the hospital from the official inquiry into the tragedy, as our political editor Tim Donovan reports.
Great Ormond Street Hospital and its successful charity have been led by Jane Collins for more than a decade. She steered it to Foundation Trust status earlier this year. Now she's leaving to take charge at the Marie Curie Health Charity. In a statement, Trust Chairman Baroness Blackstone said, "We're very sorry that Dr Collins is leaving the Trust. She's been an excellent Chief Executive and has achieved a great deal in her time at Great Ormond Street." Miss Collins said, "Obviously I'm sad to be leaving, but I feel it's the right decision. Last year I celebrated my 10th anniversary as Chief Executive of this great hospital, and I'm now ready for a new challenge." Last year, Miss Collins survived calls for her resignation after BBC London revealed she withheld details critical of the hospital's involvement in the baby Peter case from the official inquiry into the tragedy.
I cannot believe that anyone, let alone people in these very trusted positions, would hold back, withhold, doctor, cover up information to a serious case review.
Great Ormond Street was responsible for the NHS's child protection services in Haringey when Peter died. They appointed the underqualified locum, Dr Saber Al-Zayat, who examined the toddler 2 days before. An expert report later found serious failings at this clinic where he was seen, but a number of the criticisms weren't passed on to the official review into what happened.
We did share it with...
Miss Collins always rejected accusations of wrongdoing, telling the BBC she withheld material for legal reasons.
We believe in being open, always telling the truth and sharing everything we can. One of our problems is we do have responsibilities to our employees as well.
Last month, the BBC London documentary reported concerns by former radiologists at the hospital that it had downgraded child protection services, putting children at risk. That was followed by claims the hospital failed to diagnose rickets in 4-month-old Jaden Ray. His parents were accused of abuse, but later cleared at court of murder. But today, the hospital insisted that past problems had played no part in Jane Collins' decision to leave, and she was taking up a wonderful new opportunity. Tim Donovan, BBC London News.
London is gearing up for 4 days of celebrations to mark the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. For the Metropolitan Police, it's a huge logistical exercise as they have both a security and ceremonial role in the whole event. It begins on Saturday when the Queen will attend the Epsom Derby. There'll also be a huge family festival at Hyde Park. The river pageant of 1,000 boats takes place on Sunday, also the day of the big Jubilee lunch across the country. On Monday, Buckingham Palace hosts a special BBC concert. And it all concludes on Tuesday with a service at St Paul's Cathedral and a royal procession. Well, let's join Catherine Carpenter, who's down by the river. And Catherine, clearly a big operation for the Met.
This is going to be a huge weekend for the police, Riz. On the busiest days, they're going to have around 6,000 officers involved in the operation, and they've admitted that one of the biggest challenges is tailoring their policing to all the different kinds of events that are going on. For example, on Sunday, we've got the pageant here on the River Thames. The Met will have every single one of its 21 marine policing units in operation on that day. It's also borrowing 2 from Essex. And then on Monday and Tuesday, it's going to have a huge presence on London streets for the concert and also for the carriage procession that's taking place. In order to meet the challenges, of the actual days themselves. The Met's been doing a great deal in preparation. I was told earlier they've been preparing for this for 18 months. And we've already seen things like specialist search teams using sniffer dogs to search passenger vessels on the River Thames. They're also going to be using rope climbing teams to search bridges like this one ahead of the river pageant, and also underwater diving teams to check the shoreline and the piers. So lots going on ahead. But earlier I spoke to Deputy Assistant Commissioner Stephen Kavanagh, and he told me that this river pageant was a new and unique challenge for the Met.
Big event over the weekend in terms of policing will be the pageant. That's pretty unique for us, and we're treating it as an event in its own rights. We've drawn together all the lessons from different VIP protection issues, all the visiting dignitaries that we work with, the work with the royal family, and this will be just one part of our continuing learning. And we need to make sure that together with pageant organisers, TfL, everyone gets in safe and gets home safely.
And as we mentioned earlier, Catherine, the police also have a ceremonial role.
Yes, the Met's famous grey escort, its grey horses, will be leading the carriage procession from the Palace of Westminster to Buckingham Palace on Tuesday, and officers in ceremonial uniform will also be lining the route there. A very visible presence for the Met this weekend. They'll also be having to combine that with their undercover operations, and of course it's all another chance to hone the Met's tactics ahead of the Olympic Games this summer.
Catherine, thank you. A deal has been agreed for London Underground staff to receive extra pay for working during the Olympics, so avoiding the threat of strikes during the Games. The RMT union said the agreement was worth up to £1,000 for drivers and up to £850 for other staff in recognition of the massive additional pressures they will face. Well, during the Olympics, Transport for London has told businesses across the capital to be more flexible and allow home working to ease congestion. But leaked emails obtained by BBC London show that it's told some of its own staff that they'll have to work as normal and turn up to the office. TfL says it's only a small number of workers. Here's our transport correspondent, Tom Edwards.
This publicity stunt is to get us to change our travel habits. Transport for London wants us to work from home or avoid the rush hour to ease the pressure during the Games on the transport system. And it could be an Olympic legacy.
In the longer term, with both the population in London increasing and the number of jobs increasing, that might produce extra capacity on the transport network far more cheaply than building new links.
But that flexibility isn't being given to all of its own office workers. This newsletter tells the Information Management Department that business will carry on as usual. It says it is considered that there is sufficient flexibility within the working day to enable all staff to travel to work throughout the period. In other words, workers will have to get into the office. Some have told BBC London they think that's hypocrisy, especially as IT systems can be used from home. Politicians agree.
I think it's absolutely staggering at a time when everyone in London is being told they need to encourage staff to work at home and to free up public transport for all the visitors to the Games, to then say that your staff have to be in the office. And these aren't frontline staff, these are backroom staff, have to be in the office. It stinks of basically hypocrisy.
I'm remoding at the moment.
As this promotion video shows, the Department for Transport is allowing most of its civil servants to work from home. And a survey today shows that half of all businesses are allowing flexibility during the Games.
Our research has shown that offering flexible working practices can reap dividends in terms of employee engagement, increased job satisfaction.
TfL says business-critical departments will be needed to work from the office, but they'll be working shifts, as will most of its workers. It also says it'll be testing remote IT systems next month. Nonetheless, some of its employees still believe it's not practising what it preaches. Tom Edwards, BBC London News.
He's a 22-year-old Londoner from Tottenham whose parents settled here years ago from Syria. So Ahmed Al-Khalaf is only too aware of the escalating violence in the country. He's even risked his own life by travelling to Syria to document events there. And he is one of a number of Syrians in the capital who actively support the anti-government movement. Sekunda Kamani reports.
Your finger on the trigger, words do it bigger. Neil never back down on first to deliver.
Ahmed Al-Khalaf wanted to be a rapper. Now he's a revolutionary.
This is Syria, this is Idlib, this is Jarjanas. 11 people into pieces.
As the violence spread in his parents' homeland of Syria, he left his life in North London to join the protest movement aiming to overthrow the government of Bashar al-Assad. He decided to pick up a camera to show the world the human rights abuses being committed in the country. The area of Syria that Ahmed is in is highly dangerous, but we managed to make contact with him and he sent us this video message over the internet.
I'm witnessing what is unbelievable inside Syria. For the past 20 days that I've been here inside Syria, I've seen with my own eyes, over 180 martyrs that have fallen through this revolution. I've had over 80 relatives, cousins and relatives that have been killed, that have been tortured until death.
This is the man Ahmed and his fellow protesters want to overthrow. Assad also has links to London. Before becoming president, he studied at a hospital here, and his wife Asma was born and raised in Acton. So you've been around this area a long time then?
Yes, since
Malik al-Abda is a prominent opposition activist. Incredibly, he grew up in the same street Asma lived in with her parents, President Assad's in-laws.
Well, my house is just over there, and their house is over there, so almost opposite. It is very ironic that we live on opposite sides of the road, and especially so close. But that just reflects the polarization of Syrian society and the Syrian community in London in particular, between those who continue to support President Bashar al-Assad, who are a minority in my opinion, and the majority who are opposed to him.
Malik runs a Syrian TV channel from a studio in central London. It's played a key role in galvanizing opposition to the Assad regime.
This is where over 350 people, innocent people, were killed within a 2-day period.
But in Syria, the violence shows little sign of abating. The Assad government and even some Syrians in London who support the regime blame the rebels. But that's not what human rights groups say. Ahmed knows he's risking his life, but he hopes one day Syrians will enjoy the same peace and political freedoms he grew up with here. Sikandar Kamani, BBC London News.
Still to come before 7.
We're here at the Palladium because I'm appearing in Wizard of Oz and I'm playing the Wizard. And Brenda and I will be talking about it some more in a few minutes' time. In the meantime, shall we sing?
We shall. What should we sing?
I don't know.
We're off to see the Wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
There you are.
Now, you often see reports of protests when a supermarket wants to open a store in a high street. The fear of locals is often it'll drive out small businesses. But in Sidcup in southeast London, there's a twist to the tale. There, a petition's being gathered against Waitrose refusing to build one of their stores. Robin Punt has the story.
Across Greater London, it's 1 in 9. In Sidcup, southeast London, it's 1 in 6. So when Waitrose promised to build a new high street store to break the gloom of empty shops, they were welcomed not so much as a supermarket than as a superhero. Until, that is, they changed their minds. What's the big deal about Waitrose?
Well, it was Waitrose who wanted to come to Sidcup.
But they are just a shop. Why not get it? Would you get upset about Tesco or Aldi or Lidl or Sainsbury's?
Well, I'm sure we would welcome Tesco or Sainsbury's or M&S Food.
Not Aldi or Lidl, though.
Waitrose have a name for quality, and residents appreciate quality.
Annette and Barbara in the jewellers, Pauline and Jeanette in the travel agents, even Bexley traffic warden number 365, they can't give out their names, wants Waitrose to open here, bringing with them 40 new jobs. And a sense of status picked up on by house hunters.
We were obviously commenting that Waitrose was on its way here, and people were very enthusiastic about it. It made a lot of difference, really.
It really did. So people come into the estate agent and say, I want a house and it's going to be near Waitrose.
Yeah, it really made a difference.
Waitrose say their current convenience store model, or their business model, simply isn't viable here. And it wouldn't be fair to local people or to staff who would be employed in this branch, were it to be built, to go and open it up and then have to close it in the long term. The problem is they've signed the lease. No other store has taken their place, so they're funding Sidcup's newest empty shop. High Street analyst Matthew Hopkinson. Every dot on his iPad is a Waitrose. He says small supermarket outlets are growing twice as fast as demand. It's a bubble waiting to burst.
People do see it as an aspirational progress within a particular area, so I can understand people being disappointed. But ultimately, though, their offer online now, in their own right, as well as the stores in the surrounding area, very close by, I can totally understand the decision they've taken.
The petitions hit 3,000 names in 2 weeks. Even Boris Johnson, who gave Sidcup £1.8 million from his Outer London fund, wants Waitrose to think again. Robin Punt, BBC London News.
People making champion cheese in their cellar or cocktails in their bedroom. Just some of the emerging talent nominated for a series of new food awards being held in the capital tonight. Alice Bandukravi has been talking to some of the London hopefuls chosen for their passion for food and quality of produce.
Meet the salmon smoker of Stoke Newington. Ole Hansen has brought Norway to North London using his grandfather's special technique in what used to be an old boiler room.
It's a small-scale production. It's about caring for every salmon. It's about washing them individually, salting them for hand. It's about taking them to the customer in a dignified way, and it's about integrity.
Integrity and taste, and Londoners certainly have a taste for this fish. Ole supplies everyone from local customers to celebrity chefs, and his attention to detail has now earned him a nomination for a Young British Foodie Award.
It's quite great to be recognised for something, and I think it can really motivate young people to get into more food production.
Young people like trainee butcher Charlotte Harbottle. Her food blog and black pudding recipe caught the attention of the judges in what is traditionally a male-dominated quarter.
I'm really passionate about the food industry, particularly meat and the raw product rather than just the cooking necessarily, because I think it's important that we track our food from farm to fork, that we're really aware of the surroundings that the animals grow up in, the farmers, and we take an active interest in those farmers.
The founders of the YBF Awards say it's time to celebrate the individuals who are quietly pioneering new culinary techniques in innovative and exciting ways.
People are gaining a new confidence where they're actually happy to give things a go, whether it's artisanal stuff, looking at old-fashioned British traditions like bakery or cheese making or smoking fish, and they're using those traditions and they're modernising them.
And here we are.
Oh,
this is
thank
for you.
you.
God, I love to see people watching people eating it.
It is delicious. It's delicious.
Thanks.
There are some perks to this job.
Alice Bandukravi, BBC London News.
Indeed there are. Now, not many people can say they've performed alongside Buddy Holly, Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, and of course, Morecambe and Wise. But after more than half a century in show business, Des O'Connor is back in the West End at the London Palladium, where he's performed more than 1,200 times. Our entertainment correspondent, Brenda Manis, went to meet him.
A programme cover from 1969. In fact, Des O'Connor has had more solo performances here at the Palladium than anyone else. And now he's back at this mecca of entertainment, starring in The Wizard of Oz.
To see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Since its opening, Michael Crawford and Russell Grant have played the wizard in this production. But the ever-popular Des O'Connor has just stepped into the role. I find it really hard to believe this is only your second musical, Wizard of Oz.
It's been wonderful. It's just, the cast here are just so good, and the show is such a production. When I came in to see it, I'd seen the movie and all that, and I saw the opening night here. But if I'm honest, you know, it was just being here, being part of an opening night. But suddenly coming in and looking at the show and the constructive words, is this a good... It's brilliant.
Excuse me, fella. I'm sorry. That's very pretty. But when do I get to sing my song?
Singer, comedian, talk show host, the veteran entertainer has worked with the great and the good of the showbiz world. What would you say was the secret of your success?
You don't think about it too much, other than being yourself. Just, I like to think what if you and I just met, but I feel like we're friends, and I like people, and there's nothing more thrilling than hearing that roar of laughter and applause for the songs.
The stars are presented. Danny LaRue,
Des O'Connor.
Born in Stepney, Des is proud of his East End roots. Over 50 years in the business has brought him legions of fans and the CBE for services to entertainment.
I'm happy just entertaining a crowd, and if it's mean being part of a brilliant production like this, so much so.
And the wonderful Des is now the wonderful wizard at the Palladium. Brenda Emanis, BBC London News.
OK, time for a weather check with Peter, who's down by the river. And how is this week looking, Pete?
Well, it's looking rather threatening behind the eye, isn't it? And there is a chance that we could get a few thunderstorms. But don't worry, I don't think you'll get whisked away by a tornado, given we were looking at the Wizard of Oz a little bit earlier. There is a chance you could get very wet this evening, though, because few isolated slow-moving thunderstorms are a possibility. Not as many as we had yesterday evening, though. Even so, the Met Office does have a weather warning in force for some heavy rain until about 3 o'clock in the morning. So if we do catch any of these thunderstorms, they'll rumble on into the early hours, and then they'll tend to fade away as we head towards dawn, and eventually the cloud will clear away as well. Still going to be quite muggy in London. Minimum temperature overnight tonight in the centre of town, 15 Celsius. Somewhat fresher in the countryside at 10, 11, 12 degrees. And then on to tomorrow morning, and it looks as though it will be a sunny start for many of us. But cloud amounts will increase through the morning. We'll get some showery rain in the afternoon. Now you'll notice that rain tomorrow more widespread, but it will be lighter, I think, whereas this evening you're likely to get very local intense downpours. It's going to feel similar to today, temperature 24, 25 Celsius. Thursday, Friday, cooler, cloudier, the odd drop of rain. At the moment, the Jubilee weekend looks as though it could be sunny to start off with and then gradually get cloudier, but we'll keep you updated on that one as that long weekend approaches, gets a bit closer. We should have more detail for you. The outlook short term, a little bit of showery rain tomorrow, then that cooler, cloudier weather at the end of the week, Riz.
Peter, thank you. A reminder of the headlines. The parents of 6 children who died in a house fire have been arrested on suspicion of murder. 55-year-old Mick Philpott and his wife were detained in Derby this morning. Police believe the fire was started deliberately. 3 Syrian diplomats have been expelled from Britain amid mounting international criticism of the violence in Syria. Last week, more than 100 people were killed in the town of Hula. And the Met has conducted the latest in a series of high-profile operations targeting economic crime. Nearly 1,000 officers made arrests for suspected online fraud and money laundering. And that's all from us for now. I'll be back with the latest for you during the 10 o'clock news here on BBC One. Thanks for watching and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye. Tonight on BBC London News.
Move away from the door!
The Met's total war on crime as 900 officers target money laundering and online fraud in the capital. 5 months.